Hey there, and welcome to the very first episode of Model Developer Made Simple. This is the series where we break down model developer modeling, or MD modeling for simplicity, into straightforward, practical topics. I'm Bruno. I've been building MD models for life insurance and family tackle for over many years, and I know how overwhelming it can feel when you're trying to make sense of all the moving parts. That's why this series exists, to help you build your confidence, one concept at a time. In this first episode, we're going to talk about enumeration, a powerful technique which you may not pay attention to previously. I'll explain what enumeration is, how it works in MD, and why it might just become one of your favorite tools in the modeler's toolbox. Let's get into it. If you don't keep track of the updates released for MD, let's start with one of the new features added in the 2024 Key 4 release. Previously, when you defined a variable in MD, you had two options, number or text. But with this update, there's now a third option, enumeration. This means you can now set up variables using predefined sets of values that are clearly labeled and easy to work with. If you haven't come across enumerations before, here's a simple way to think about it. An enumeration is like a list where each item has a number and a name. For example, in a reserve calculation scenario, one might represent best estimate reserves, 2 for statutory reserves, and 3 for capital reserves. Instead of hard-coding numbers like 1 or 3 and trying to remember what they mean, you can use pairings to an enumeration, as shown on the screen. Enumerations will be useful when we define conditions for an if statement. Let's dive further on how we can apply this technique. By using enumerations, you can now write your logic with meaningful labels, like res_scenario.be, res_scenario.stat, or res_scenario.cap. It's a lot clearer than using raw numbers. This makes your code much easier to read and understand, and it also helps reduce the chance of human error, especially as your MD model grows more complex. Let's say we're working with a MD model that uses the calculation looping technique. Each calculating looping is used to calculate a different type of reserve. Without enumerations, we have to write conditions like, if calculation looping equal to 1 then. The problem is, we need to remember what each number stands for. Does 1 mean best estimate? Is 2 for statutory? What about 3? When writing or reviewing code, it's easy to lose track, especially if different models use different numbering conventions. I'll be honest, there have been plenty of times when I've confused one loop for another, just because I couldn't recall which number represented which reserve. By using enumeration, we can make our MD code more readable and intuitive. When we need to work with numbers, we can convert an enumeration to its corresponding value using a function designed for that, like enumeration to integer. Similarly, we can convert an enumeration to text using the enumeration to text function, which is especially useful when we want to use it in naming tables or defining suffixes dynamically. Having enumeration as one of the variable types, alongside number and text, really helps streamline MD coding. It reduces the need to constantly use conversion functions and allows us to write logic that's more concise and easier to follow. Let me explain with a simple illustration. First, we create a new enumeration variable that changes based on the calculation loop. For example, when the calculation looping equals 1, the variable is defined as res_scenario.be to represent the best estimate reserve. With that setup, we can simplify our earlier if condition. Instead of checking whether calculation looping equals 1 and using the enum to integer function, we can now just write the condition using calculation scenario directly, our new enumeration variable. This not only shortens the code, but also keeps it more readable. On top of that, enumeration variables help overcome a common limitation in MD in using text variable. We know that text variables can't be made time-dependent or vary by calculation looping, but enumeration variables can. And when we need a text output, such as for defining the suffix for a table name, we can easily convert the enumeration to text. It's a practical way to bring flexibility and clarity into your model setup. So that's a quick look at enumerations in MD and how this new variable type can help make your code cleaner, clearer, and more reliable. It may seem like a small change, but if you start using it in the right places, like calculation looping logic or dynamic table names, you'll notice the difference in how easy it is to read and maintain your models. I hope this gave you a useful starting point, and if you're just getting into profit modeling, don't worry. We'll be covering more practical tips in future episodes of Model Developer Made Simple. Thanks for watching, and if you found this helpful, feel free to like, share, or leave a comment below. See you in the next one.